What's the deal, YouTube? It's your boy Lil Man. So look, we will go ahead and talk about this trade that I took over this past week and a half basically. And it was the Euro Japanese Yen, and I took a buy there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and break down the trade for you guys. So, and this is what it looked like. So I entered right here, and I held, and then closed final take profits here, and I closed partials here. So let's go ahead and go over the trade, and I'll show you guys why I took it. So starting off on the daily time frame, we can see that price is in a bullish run, right? We can see that we're going up, so we would only be looking for buys right during this right here. So let's go ahead and drop down to the 4 hour so we can go ahead and break in the structure. So as we can see right here on the 4 hour, we can see prices making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, right? So price is just making higher highs, higher lows in between here, right? So now that we see that the trend is going up, we'd only want to take in buys, right? So now let's go ahead and just mark out price real quick, or just mark out some levels. So we got level here, small level here, and we got a level here, and then we can just go ahead and mark up this right here. So this is pretty much all the levels that you need. This is pretty much what my chart looked like, obviously with a little more. I'm going to show you guys too, but I'm just going to go ahead and mark it up for you guys so you guys know what I was looking at. So this is pretty much what price was. It was looking like this, and I was just marking up structure. So if we go ahead and do that, like I said, we had our lows. I'm just going to mark up here. Got our higher highs, higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and we got our last higher high right here, right? So our trading range that we're trading between is this higher low and this higher high right here, right? So this is our range. So if we break under here, then we're looking for sales, or we'll just new structure to start forming, right? But if we break up here, we're looking for new buys. But as of right now, this is our trading range, right? So this is pretty much what I was looking at, and I'll go ahead and go to my chart now. So like I said, this is pretty much what I was looking at, and I seen that. So once you look at structure, so I knew that it was a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and a higher high. So I knew that this is our trading range right here, right? So I was just looking in between here. So as you can see, after we drew our fib from this higher low to the higher high, we can see that the retracement zones were 61.8 right here and the 78.6 was right here. And I was just waiting for, since price is like right here when I was thinking about this trade, since I didn't want to enter right here, right? Even though this would be a good break and retest, price impulsed up and it was still correcting down. So I was still waiting for more correction, since after like an impulse, that's just like price flow, right? So there's market structure, which is higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. But then there's also price flow, right? So if we impulse up and we correct down, that just shows that we're going up, that we're showing intent to the upside, right? Because we impulse that way, and now we're correcting down. That's just showing weakness in buyers. And then we impulse up again, right? Weakness in buyers, correction, impulse up, correction, impulse up, correction. Now we can impulse up and then impulse down and then correct up. And then what would that show? It would show weakness in what? Buyers, right? Because we're correcting up. We're slowly moving back up. And then impulse down. That would show the intent would want to go downside, right? Because the sellers are pushing it that way fast. Correction, correction, impulse, right? So that's just price flow. And that's good to know also, right? So as you can tell, we impulsed up from here, right? And then what do? We started correcting, right? So that's just showing weakness in buyers. So once it hit this level, I knew that I wasn't wanting to get in right here, right? Because this is just the first test. So we had a break and retest. Even though this would be a good break and retest, I still wouldn't want to get in, right? Because I would still wait for more correction and just wait for more manipulation, right? Because I wouldn't think this would be a good buy, even though it could be. But you just want to have more confluence, right? So after price shot up from here, right, this impulsive candle right here, if we go to the lower time frame, like 2 hour, we can see price impulsed up, and once it impulsed up, would leave and left it. What we call imbalance in the market, right? So there's imbalance right here, and what does price have to do? Price has to come back and fill this imbalance, right? So the imbalance is from right here where it impulsed up to just right here this wick, right? So price has to come back and fill this, right? So I was waiting for that. So it came right here, and did it hit it? So it came right here and it hit it. So once it hit it, I still didn't want to enter right here, right? So even though it filled the imbalance, I still didn't want to enter because we were still making what? Lower lows and lower highs, right? All throughout here. So lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, right? So I still didn't want to enter right there, right? So let's put price right here. So once price came and tapped and hit this imbalance, we was like, okay, price hit that imbalance. Now we filled that, and then price started moving up from here, right? But I still didn't want to enter on this because we still haven't broken any structures right here, right? We're still in this little downtrend, even though we're still in a higher time frame uptrend. We're in a lower time frame correction, right? So we still want to wait for structures to start breaking before we start looking for buys. So if we drop down to the lower time frame, so we're on a 1 hour chart now, we can see that, like I said, we hit this imbalance level right here, right? So where price shot up from. So we hit it right here, right? So we still haven't broken any structures, right? So I didn't want to enter right here because this is probably where some buyers got in, right? Because they got in right here, right here, right here, all throughout here, right? Thinking price is going to go up. But we still have to wait for price to shift in our favor. So price hasn't broken any of these levels yet, right? So we're going to wait till it breaks a level. Okay, so now it broke this level, right? So once it broke this level, I was like, okay, now price is starting to shift in our favor, right? So price broke that, and this is probably where early buyers got in right here, right? Thinking that since we broke that, we're going to keep heading up, right? But we still have to wait for a retest for price to start agreeing with us. So after we left that imbalance, what happened right here? Price didn't hit it, right? But then right here, price hit it, right? So once price hit that imbalance, that was the last imbalance I was looking at. So it was looking like price was in our favor now, right? Because we broke structure, we came back, filled the imbalance, filled this, and now we're starting to look like we're rejecting and starting to go up, right? So I entered around here, right? Like right here, right? Because it was off the 78.6. So the confluence is basically where all these equal highs too. So every time you see equal highs in the market, is pretty much just manipulation, and pretty much just you're waiting for those to get stopped out so you can trade against it sometimes. So it's just good to know where equal highs are sitting at, because if price were to go back to it, what would people be thinking? Okay, since we sold from here and we sold from here, once we get back up to it, we're going to sell it again. But no, we're going to take it out, and then sometimes we could just take it out for liquidity and then for a move back down, or we could take it out for liquidity for just a move back up, right? So in this instance, I seen that price left some equal highs, so I was waiting for those to get stopped out, right? So since price moved back down, I was like, okay, so now I'm going to get a better price to go ahead and stop these out, and then also go ahead and go along with my trade that I'm trading, right? So the confluences I had were basically, so I knew those are equal highs right there, right? So that's one confluence. A second one was just this imbalance level right here, right? We came, hit that right here, and then we had another one right here. We came and tapped that, right? So those two got taken out. We had an impulse up, and then we were correcting down, right? So I was just waiting for a move back up, right? Because once we impulse and correct, what's going to happen? So let's look right here, right? We impulsed up, what happened? Corrected, impulsed up, what happened? Corrected, impulsed up, right? So corrections can be any size, right? So these are smaller corrections, and this is a bigger daily time frame correction, right? So we corrected, and what happens after a correction? Impulse up, right? So that's basically what I was looking at. And then this is basically where I got in. My stop loss and take profit looks something like, so I got in like right here, and I was just anticipating for it to break out of this descending trend line, right? Just take out this, and then just for a target here, and then up here, and then up here, something like that, right? I'm just gonna show you guys. So I got in around here. Like I said, my stop loss was right under this level, right? Because this is a lower high. So if we break under here, then this trade wouldn't be valid anymore, right? So my stop loss was right there, and my take profit was way up here, right? Because I want a good risk rewards. So I shoot for like 1 of 3s every trade basically, or at least a 1 of 2.5. If it's not like I won't take 1 of 2s, or I won't take 1 of 1s. So it got to be like 1 of 2.5, 1 of 3 plus. So this one was a 4.0 basically, so a risk reward of 1 of 4. And we can look where I took it, and it was a 3.50. So I was risking 1% to make 3.5. So it wasn't a 4. So it was a little bit further down. So it's like something like this, right? So 1 of 3.5. So this is what the trade looked like before I got into it, right? Everything looked good. We were having higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. We impulsed up, we were correcting down. There was an imbalance level right here. It got taken out right here. Early buyers got in right here, and I was waiting for a breaker structure. We finally got that right here. We left some equal highs, so we know that those have to get taken out. And then price came back down and then filled this imbalance. So I was just got in here anticipating for a move back up, right? After the big correction for an impulse move back up, breaking out of this descending trend line. So once we finally got that, price came up here, and then I knew that we was gonna have some trouble in between these levels, right? Because if you see this price action, it's kind of crazy, right? So once we got up here, I was gonna hold the trade either way it went, right? Till it got up here, till at least it got right here, right? So I wasn't gonna take any partials or nothing in between these levels. So I was just gonna wait for it to see however it played out. So basically, once it got up here, I moved my stop loss to break even, right? Because I wanted to protect my risk. So just in case price came down. So just in case price came back all the way down here, I wouldn't be taking out the trade, right? So I moved my stop loss up, and once I did that, I seen that price finally, so like I said, price took it out those equal highs, right? So now that we can take that off the chart, so price took it out right here, right? And then now if we go to lower time frames, we can go ahead and start looking how structure's forming, right? After we impulse up from this level. So once we impulsed up, I was like, okay, so we finally got this little impulse up. So now the trade's looking in my favor, right? So now everything's looking good. There's nothing to be worried about. So now we can go ahead and start putting more structure levels down. So as you can see, we had a psychological level right here at 135 where price rejected that, and that's when we finally broke through it, right? So I knew this could be a level that price could come back to, because price can't just keep shooting up forever, right? Even though it could, but obviously 10 times out of 10 or whatever, 7 times out of 10 it's not gonna do that. So it's gonna retrace, right? So price always has to retrace. So once we got that impulse up, I knew that we could come back down to this level, right? Because that's where the previous highs were. That's where we're struggling to break from, right? Struggling to break, struggling to break, struggling to break, struggling to break. We finally broke it. So now it's like a magnetic zone basically. So price has to come retest it. So price did retest that, and also where it impulsed up from. So this low to this high, it went up and then it came down. So this is 61.8. So I was just basically looking at this key area right here, right? For price to not break under, right? Because that was just my obstacle, right? Because if price broke under that, then there would be nothing in the way for price to keep moving up, unless it was just a little fake out or something. So this is just the key area I was looking at for price to hold. Went up, came back down, tested, went up again, came back down, tested, and this probably got a lot of buyers or whatever stopped out. So some breakout traders probably started buying right here, and then it stopped them out if they had their stop losses above the levels or something, and then went up again, probably stopped them out again, and then it had enough liquidity for price to keep moving up, right? So after it started forming this resistance right here, this is another level I was looking at. This 136,900 level, because price was struggling to break it, right? And then we finally broke it right here, right? So once we broke that and had this fat engulfing candle, I knew that we had enough momentum to come and hit this level. And this is a level that I was waiting for price to hit, right? Because once price hit this is where I was taking partials at, 137,500. So once price came and hit this level right here, I took partial. I took profits and I took like 2% right here, right? And I was just gonna let the rest run because this was a level that price wicked at, and then it fell and did all this correction there from this level, right? So I wouldn't want price to come. I wouldn't want all this. I wouldn't want to sit through all this, right? And then for price to come all the way up here, and then just for me to want this little much more, instead of gaining all this and then price hit this level and then fall all the way back down right here, right? So I would want to take profits right here, right, just in case that happens. So that's what I did. So I took profits right there, and then I seen that we had enough momentum to keep going up, right, because we had all these engulfing candles, right? So I don't see nothing stopping this, right? So I knew that we could come and tap this level because this was where the negative 27 was on the fib level, right? From this swing to this swing. So it came back down, tested the 61.8, and then we kept moving, right? Online. So it was from this level. So from the higher low to the higher high, and then we came back down and we hit the 78.6, right? And then once we hit that, price came, went up, and then finally tapped into that, right? So that's where my final take profit was, right? Let me go ahead and take all this off the chart. So yeah, that's basically what the trade looked like. And if you want another summary of it again real quick, go ahead and take everything off the chart real quick. So basically, we was going bullish, right? We was having this bullish run, making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, right? And then price came back to make this higher low and this higher high, right? So once price did that, I knew that this is our trading range, right? Because we broke all these other structures, broke them. So this was the higher low to the higher high. So this is our range right here, right? And then we can see that we have an imbalance level right here, right? So price has to come back to fill this level, right? So we can keep that in mind. And then now we can just look at the flow of price, right? We can see price is impulsing up and it's correcting. Price is impulsing up and correcting. Price is impulsing up, and then now it's having a fat correction, right? So now we know that it's correcting. Now we're showing weakness in buyers. We can see that we can start to look for prices to buy it, right? So we can see we have a support level right here, 134.500. We can go ahead and mark that out. So we marked that out. This is one of our levels we can look to buy it, right? So like I said, we took out this imbalance. Once we took that out, price moved up, finally broke structure right here, right? Because we wouldn't want to buy if price is still forming downtrend and bearish momentum, so we wouldn't want to buy. So price finally broke that, so we can show that buyers are starting to look to get into the market. And then it came back down and then hit this imbalance, right? So that's where I got in right here. And also because this fib from the higher low to the higher high, and then that's just where the 78.6 is heading, right? So that's why I wanted to buy. So I bought it right here. Final profits was this negative 27.0, and then my stop loss is just under this higher low, right? So it looks something like, oh, I'm tripping. So it looks something like that, right? So that's just where I got in right here. And then price impulsed up and then started correcting, right? Because after we impulse up, what happens? Correction, impulse up, correction, impulse up, correction, impulse up, correction. And after we got the correction, what happens? After correction, impulse up, right? So now now this is where price is right here, right? So like I said, we finally hit my final take profit. So I took partials right here, and I took like 2%, and then I finally took the rest. So it was like a 2.7% gain in total, right? So now we can see price is impulsing up. So now what happens after impulse, right? Correction. So now the levels we can look for now are at this level right here, right? Because like I said, it left the imbalance right here, right? So we have to wait for this to get filled. And then we could also have a little trend line in here, something like that, right? So it's just all about matching confluences, right? And then seeing what the trade is. And then also going along with the trend and the flow of price, right? So that's just the EJ trade, and I hope you guys learned something from that. Appreciate you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.